Okay, as a Buddhist, I already know about Buddhist sustainable development through inner happiness. But how to start it, how to do it, and practical way to start it. And I have a question for Dr. Shorty. Yes, how the cross nation and happiness, how it's come about, how it started in Bhutan, how did you got the idea, and you know, and how people react, how people in your country react. See, like I said, I know all about this, but what the practical way to practice it?
I think everyone's asking that question. What did the fourth king of Bhutan actually mean?
When the fourth king of Bhutan first talked about GNH, I think it's on everybody's mind. What did he actually mean? Because all he said was gross national happiness is more important than gross national product. So this was sometime in 1970s he said that. But he didn't say anything beyond that in public. So all this, what does GNH mean? People have been trying to understand and explain. But I think we can assume that because Bhutan is a Buddhist country and the main values that come from Buddhism are very deeply infused in our society. So already we can assume that when the king says something like this, he is also coming from a particular culture with a particular mindset, which is influenced heavily by Buddhism, the principles of compassion and serving others, well-being of all life forms, interdependence, so such basic principles. And I think to a large extent Bhutanese society has evolved in that way, it has been functioning that way. The people's response, I would say, now we say gross national happiness, but it's not necessary that everybody agrees to this term or knows intellectually what it is supposed to mean. But maybe people are living it because we come from, they have existed in a very interdependent way, helping each other. People, whether in isolated villages, which is difficult to reach and cut off. So there's a certain way of existence. So maybe they are living more harmoniously than people in the urban centers. And maybe they understand GNH at the experiential level, but we are talking so much in a very intellectual way. So that's one level of understanding GNH. But the other level is also now in terms of policy, public policy, the government having made it a national philosophy, like the vision for development. So in terms of implementing officially, there has been a lot of important efforts, like we have our development plans in 5 year, every 5 years, we plan for every 5 years, so 5-year plans. They have tried to now slowly orient the plans according to what is described as 4 pillars of GNH: environment, culture, balanced, equitable, socio-economic development, good governance. But even before that, when I think if you look maybe 30-40 years back in Bhutan's history of modern development, these were the kind of priority areas in development planning. And I think later, our former Prime Minister Jimmy Waitemble, who's a champion of GNH in the international community, he was one of the persons who helped to say that, okay, these priority areas that Bhutan has been following in its development, they can be referred to as 4 pillars of cross-national happiness. So that's one way. But even after that, just before we transited to constitutional democracy form of government, we had the drafting of the Constitution of Bhutan, which again the 4th King of Bhutan initiated. And there GNH is also featured very prominently. I think it's in Article 9 of the Constitution, which says that it is the responsibility of the state to provide the necessary conditions so that people can pursue gross-national happiness. So, but the conditions, so again it comes back to this concept of needs, the necessary conditions, so not the wants, but the needs, basic needs, but which would include things like equity, justice, social services, all of these things. So that's the other thing. And another very, I think, good example I always see is from the monarch itself, in terms of good governance, because the whole move to drafting constitution, the whole move to democracy was initiated since the early 1980s. This whole idea moved towards decentralizing decision-making, planning to the district levels, then further than that to the village or the block levels. All of these were initiatives that came from the throne, and it ultimately culminated into democracy in 2008, so it was over a 30-year period, and I think we can see that in practice. And another good example is in the environmental policies of the country, which tends to be quite strict. So, but these are good examples of GNH, and also I think we're trying to be very aware and mindful of the fact that we have new, more complicated emerging problems in Bhutanese society, which is now changing so fast. Because, we had television and internet introduced only in 1998. So suddenly we had the whole world coming in through our television sets, and you come from a relatively undisturbed kind of society that suddenly overnight is bombarded with so much information from all over. And so I think our younger generation especially is really struggling, grappling with different ideas and values, and then a little bit of a disconnect now, what between the generations. So such kind of challenges, also the challenge of just convenience. Like we also want to live a very comfortable life in terms of material well-being. We want what other people want. So that culture of consumerism is slowly creeping in, has creeped in actually in Bhutan. And then, yes, the interest of private companies. Again, the private sector is very small in Bhutan, but already we know that there is a little bit of a divide, maybe not so strong like in other countries, but the profit motive, all of that. So many emergent challenges and issues that I think we have the concept of GNH. Hopefully it's supposed to guide us, maybe like the idea of wisdom, having wisdom in making the decision, but it's a big challenge.
May I ask one question? It is quite some time now that the concept of gross national happiness has been developed by academics and politicians and leaders of your country. How do you evaluate the impact on other countries? Has it remained a Bhutanese concept, or has other countries accepted the principle, considered the relevance? Do you think it has been successful outside Bhutan or not?
I think yes and no. Yes, because well, let's see. First of all, I think maybe 10 years before, if you talked about gross national happiness or happiness, you would get laughed laughed at or people just don't understand. But now it has gained a certain momentum and there's a better understanding. Other than that, I do not claim, but I mean, a lot of people do believe that certain initiatives like the Sarkozy Commission on well-being, certain reports like that, and then even the World Happiness Report, which the Columbia University 2-3 years ago initiated, that there's a certain link to GNH. The inspiration comes from GNH. At the United Nations level in 2011, the so-called Happiness Resolution was introduced by Bhutan, co-sponsored by 68 member states, and actually became a non-binding resolution, but nevertheless putting it at the UN level, where a holistic approach to development is being proposed. So in that sense, there's a certain acceptance, I think, at that broad visionary level. But I think, again, it's easy for people to accept maybe a broad vision. When you don't have to get down to the nitty-gritty details of actually changing the system, it's very easy to accept. But still, I think these things take an enormous amount of time to gain traction. I think more promising is, again, the acceptance or the inspiration that is given to local communities around the world, places like Brazil, Japan, even in Thailand, India, and in the United States, funnily enough, also they are actually hosting now their 5th conference on GNH in the US. So local communities are actually taking it on more, and also academics, I think, and I think people who are now more conscious of the impacts on the environment, the social impacts of the current system. So in that sense, I think it's gaining. And the report, the New Paradigm Initiative, again, it's very deeply grounded in GNH, and is meant to be Bhutan's contribution to the global discussion right now on the post-2015 agenda. So personally, I'm not that hopeful that it's going to make a big dent in the United Nations discussion itself at that level, because it's intergovernmental negotiations that are going to happen, and I don't have the experience, but from what I hear from my colleagues, it's, you come down to fighting over a comma or a word. So forget about introducing a new paradigm in the United Nations. But our hope is that people's mindset, again, is so important. Slowly somebody will read, get some inspiration, see that things have to change. So you start small, and again, hopefully this will be a catalyst. I think that's our intention, catalyst for change.
Collective enlightenment. May I ask you about the new paradigm work? Yes. Your director and already submit to UN already. So what is next step? Is they gonna do something with that? What is the process after that? How to operate this kind of concept?
Process for the new paradigm?
Yeah.
In terms of trying to make an impact at the United Nations, I think we have to depend on our government, our foreign ministry, to take it to the next level, because they are the appropriate representative of Bhutan. So they have to go through their own diplomatic channels. So there I cannot say much because I'm not part of that. But like I said, I think civil society groups are picking up on the idea, and I think it resonates with what they want also. So our hope is that actually it should become more of a social movement, where the need for change is felt at very grassroots level, and it becomes a bottom-up process. In terms of the formal initiative, the NTP initiative, the Secretariat was set up as a 2-year project, and mainly to produce a report for UN, and we have done that, this report. Initially, it was intended to be a much more detailed report where you actually spell out, okay, what does it mean for the trade system, the tax system, the global financial institutions. It was supposed to be very detailed, and that's why we had a big group of experts. But along the past 2 years, and reality set in, where we have 71 international experts, everyone with very good experience, but very specialized focus also. So at the same time, we also realized maybe a small country like Bhutan can provide this big vision, but maybe the best thing we can do is try to make this more practically applicable for Bhutan, and that way we show it as an example to the world, how it can work in one context, and we should not be trying to spell out details for the entire world, because that is impossible. So we provide this big vision, certain principles, I think, which do make sense. It's, like I said, it's drawn from Buddhism, but we don't say it's Buddhism. We don't have to put a label to it. Basically, I think it's the universal values that applies. So hopefully people can say, okay, we need to rethink the purpose of development, rethink our vision, and then apply it in local context, because that's the only way it can happen. We cannot, Bhutan cannot spell out what it means for education in the US. We can only think of our own, we only understand our context, so we leave it to everybody else to take the ideas forward and make it happen.
I like the concept of GNH, gross national happiness, and I studies to a certain extent on the concept. But there were a number of protests among the poor Bhutanese people against the GNH policy of the Bhutanese government, saying that GNH is good for high-class people who are already rich. So you say that we are simple, we are sustainable now, and so on. But for those poor people who doesn't meet the basic necessity need, they are struggling for their poverty. So they protest against this policy. And I would like to hear your response to this. I heard from the news. Yeah.
Self-sufficiency economic, good for rich people.
I think that's a very important question, but probably it's a misperception or also a misrepresentation of how GNH was probably being explained or understood. Because if you really look at GNH, it's supposed to be about justice and equity, about equitable development and just development also. So poverty, that means poverty is a big concern. And like in the new paradigm framework, again based on GNH, the whole idea is that first of all we have to ensure that the very basic needs of everybody is met. And like the Constitution of Bhutan spells out that these very basic conditions are the responsibility of the state. So we have to ensure there's education, health. Like in Bhutan we have free education, health, social services. These things have to be there, and certain rights, of people have to also be honored, respected. So it is supposed to be very inclusive actually. But it's true that, because the discussion has remained so much at the academic level and intellectual, and sometimes because there's been such a big sometimes gap between the local communities and when high level people talk about GNH all the time. So it does complicate the understanding, and also I think one of the maybe problems that might be happening now is that there's a certain focus on mindfulness, which shouldn't be a problem. It's very good. Again, mindfulness is part of being more wise, I think, and making wiser decisions. But I think there are certain efforts which forget the very practical needs like clean drinking water, electricity, decent living conditions, and straight away talk about, okay, we should just have meditation. They introduced meditation in schools as a way for GNH, but then the message that people got was, okay, just meditate and you should be satisfied with what you have. So I mean, it sends the wrong message, unfortunately, and I think that was not the intention, but that's what happened. So the important thing is, I think, to put everything into context. So I think mindfulness is one way so that people also are more satisfied, but at the same time, we should not by any means ignore the very practical needs.
That's clear. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'd like to say two things. First, now discussion about Bhutan. And when I listen the comments from Professor Pichai and others, and especially you said that practice is important, experience is important. It is fine, experience and practice, and I agree that we need to learn from practice. Then, what if we do not have any experience? Then how actually we can teach, say, others? This should be the way for us to make a judgment. I can give you one example from Bhutan. When I visited the rural village, I stayed there a couple of days, one family, very rural area. However, there is one, satellite TV. The satellite TV is in the living room. At night, people gather in the living room. Men talking each other with alcohol, as always. I look at different part of the room. There's a group of women, okay? They get together. So they talk and talk and talk each other. And I just look at the corner of the living room. 3 small children, they just watch the TV. See, this is the situation how the parents or how the villagers can teach them. They have no experience viewing TV. I don't think they can teach them how to treat the TV to the children. That is the situation happening in Bhutan. So, could you suggest that these people, they are Buddhist, they experience practice. It's easy to say, but it's so difficult. So how do you convince them? It's a question actually. This is the technology issue, isn't it? SNS, we can blame easily, but it's already part of our system. Then, how to convince the people who should be wiser? Of course, we like to be a wise person, but how we can convince the people? Second point, thank you for saying something about Toyota company, but we Japanese do not believe they are the good company. They are sacrificing the people's life by making money. So because of economic efficiency, they work so hard. Because of the pressure from the company, that's why they make a team effort by sacrificing the weekends with family. So this is a deal. So we have another assessment about a good company in Japan. I can give you one company. The size of the company is not like Toyota, but this company is very good. They work together with a person with disability on an equal footing, same wage, and they collaborate for many years. Not from the president of the company's group, but from employees. They suggest that to have co-workers with a different background. So we believe this should be better than the company. So thank you for saying a good word, big name companies, but we have problem. That's why we have so many suicide. Yeah, this is really a matter. That's why we have so many family breakups. That's why we have so many children now abandoned by the family. So we have to fix this culture of economic, egoism, greediness from the market economy.
I still do believe in pendulum. It's swing like that. You gotta get momentum.
You want me to answer the question? You read the question?
Yeah. So I think I feel like you have some good suggestions to the Bhutanese people, those who live in the rural areas with TVs coming in.
Well, actually, the answer was in my talk before that if you don't understand, you won't be able to practice it. So to get the understanding is crucial. But once you start understanding and you don't practice it, you're stupid. You're not smart, because when you understand that this is a good thing and you still don't practice it, then you are stupid, as I said. So first, to get people to understand, this is a difficult part, but in Buddha teaching, it has to have 3 components. First, to have understanding or to understand the concept or the theory, which is called pariyat. And then after you understand that, then you start practice. Because if you don't understand from the beginning, you can practice in the wrong way. And Buddha himself made a mistake before, because otherwise he could take not less than 6 years, to understand his own teaching. But first he don't understand, but he tried to do what the ordinary, most people use common sense, namely that, if you want to be free from dukkha, then you try to do as much harder to complete the dukkha. So that's why he tried to do everything in order to torture himself, but it didn't lead to anything. That's why he come with the wrong theory in the beginning. That's why he started. You have to start with the right theory. That is why the first teaching of him is to have a right thinking. Right? So if you don't really start with the right thinking, then you may ask, then how you can get the right thinking? Of course, the right thinking, according to Buddha himself, it's from try and error. So if you try and you find that it's not good enough, then you correct it. But the problem is that at least you have to have some kind of wisdom, because if you don't have any wisdom at all, the try and error will not come to the correct one. Right? That kind of thing.
อาจารย์ทัศน์ you have to talk anything so we just know he have helped me a lot with so many things so we cannot concentrate
Why you forget him?
He's active to manage those that and I heard that the battery is out so he's work out. He's the associate dean of faculty of Rangsit University. But he said today he just got to help me out. Very appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Actually, I'm not good at the Buddhist principle of Buddhist theory, but I agree with Dr. Taurak about the happiness and inner happiness, because it is a fact, but we cannot value or quantify it into the economic way. So I think about how to create the new utility function that can represent the inner happiness in the function. So I just mentioned about my new research in the future. I will think how to modify the utility function which include the happiness inside that. For example, I think the classical utility function is maximize quantity subject to budget constraint. So, but actually we have after we work, we have the time left to do anything that can make us happy. So I think another function is the time after work. Because we work, we get the money to buy, to consume the commodity that in the classical utility function. But the time left after working, we can do another, we can make another utility. So that's my idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think if you do that, it's going to be a big contribution in utility function of economic theory nowadays. So the last one.
There's another audience. You like to make some comment, say something, introduce yourself also.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Nattapong Tawisapichai. I'm a student master degree about Buddhist and philosophy of Mahamukut University. I would like to talk about happiness. Have an experience between the Buddhist and King Bimbisan, who is happy more than Buddhists ask King Bimbisan, you can make a happy time, eat every time. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4, 5, 6, and 7 days. The king you can make. King Bimbisan answer no. But the Buddhist answer, but Buddhist can make. So I think happiness is made from our affection is not a real, because it is a tukkan or not sustainable. But a real happiness is made from inside, from deep in mind. For meditation is pure and easy to make and important. Is a real happiness and sustainable for human in the world. And important, the most people in Buddhist don't know a teaching from a real Buddhist, but know only a new teaching. So is have a human of another religion answer in he interest of Buddhist. He answer, what your Buddhist teaching? Almost people say he said, who said, him said, but don't know about Buddhist teaching. So important nowadays. I don't know, because something is Buddhist teaching we don't know, and almost we learn something is not a teach of Buddhist, and Buddhist say it's a long way. So in my team try to study Buddhist teaching real and tell another people. Your master supply, because the Buddhists know in the future and tell more than 2,000 years that in the future people don't know about a real teaching of Buddha, but they know and study a new teaching. I think we know about Buddhist teaching, a real effect of Buddha or Buddha Vajana can true in the happiness in a real in the world and help people another the world. Thank you so much.
I don't know, is there any reflections before we wrap up? And for myself, I like to have this consultation because I know that bottom close to the deadline that I'm going to send to the World Buddhist University in June. And it's almost finished after revise from this group discussion. And I'm thinking like, okay, this is a good concept, it's a big idea. What to do next? I still have no idea. Like yesterday I mentioned to Tashi and Professor Kusako. It's a good thing to do, what to do. And Mr. Chung mentioned this morning that, okay, we have no problem with the framework, it's good to promote Buddhists into this framework. But how to operationalize it, this is a big challenge. How to, about the implementation and so on. So I also don't know what to do, what's next. Maybe some professor from the World Buddhist University have some idea that what should be the next step of this type of concept or this type of work. Maybe I can tell you what, I don't know what you think.
I think Dr. Savala's research has been done until this is almost the final stage. And we are very happy that we hold a discussion group so that Savala can reflect from criticism, comments and so on to make her work more concise, clearer and in a high quality. After you finish your research, then you are invited to present your final product of the research in our next conference.
In July.
In July. At
Pattaya.
Thammasat University College of Innovation at Pattaya. So that will be your final stage to present the result of your research.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and anyone who are interested in joining the July conference, the topic, the main theme is Buddhist studies in AEC. So we prepare for the AEC in the year 2015. ASEAN Economic Community, AEC. Now, I would like, I think it's time to wrap up. And
I want to.
You want to make more comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not comment, but she asked what to do next. There's two ways of approaching this one. Because what you are doing, you like to try to introduce new idea and concept, especially Buddhism and Buddhist economics into broader perspective. And of course, you are personally interested in the concept of happiness. So, depend on if you want to find the challenge and how to apply. In fact, I mean, when I introduced Wanda to you, she already done the 3 case study of company who she thought that has applied this concept. So if you want to do something similar to that, as the professor from Italy said, there are 2 places for effective implementation to solve this problem. First is in education, and second one is in business. So, because education is the way to lay a good foundation, but business is the one who can actually make a lot of change. And in fact, a lot of people is doing this at the moment. For example, I have one student approaching me that he wants to do what we call Tham business, but instead of Tham in Thai, it's Thamma business. Then he wants to apply this under the concept of sufficiency economy philosophy. I use the case study of organic rice, but not only on the production side, but the overall approach from both producer and consumer, and how they can share the idea and work together, that sort of thing. So there are many other ways, many other things that you can do in the implementation. But you see, I think the way your personal personal specialization, and personal expertise or personal interest, you may not keen to go to do a case study or field work. So I suggest that you can still develop this kind of concept of happiness further on, like the one Sundarapon suggests to you, that if you do happiness through, because you have 3 levels of happiness: physical happiness, mind happiness, and wisdom happiness. Sundarapon suggests Pavana Panya, which is the wisdom happiness. In a way, it's good for Sundarapon because she going to Nibbana. You're not going that far yet. So you go to the mind wisdom, which is the Citta Maya Panya, which is at that mind level, which is, and this can be for application afterwards. Okay, I can take it up there.
Finally, I'd like to invite Mr. Somnak Durana, the Vice Rector of the World Buddhist University, to give a closing speech before we complete this session.
Dr. Pishai, the most senior in this room, Somnak, the defender, and Dr. Sundarapon, Director Boa, thank you very much for your participation in this meeting on behalf of the World Buddhist University. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again in July.